Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My remote control is not cooperating. So David here, Galactic Warrior. If you haven't watched my video about where that name comes from, it's on the channel. Been sitting out here for a while. Got the sacred fire going. For a while it was the sacred smoke because things are wet. Yesterday I said that I was going to talk about a certain subject. It was something that I was observing on the internet, but I was guided today to talk about something a little different. So here we go. What I was guided to talk about, and what I was pondering last night and today, was the only way I could phrase it is um, accelerated timelines and our soul's evolution being accelerated in this timeline that we're in. And this timeline is going to last for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. And the technology that we have in this timeline right now, you could look at it as either the cause or the effect, right? Is the technology the reason for the accelerated timeline, or is the technology a result of the accelerated timeline? I don't know the answer, and I don't really care. It's not that important. What's important is that it's happening. So if we look back, if I go back to yesterday, I mentioned my grandparents, my mother's parents, who I grew up with. My grandfather was kind of the man in my life. They were born, Elmer and Marie, Elmer Anthony. They were born in 1897 and 1899. Anno Domino, or whatever it's called, AD, right? This was before a lot of technology. This was before, of course, electricity in the home, airplanes. But the big one, if you really want to think about it, the big one is before refrigeration. Indoor plumbing, another big one, right? We have people screaming now, and it happens in my group here. When we lose power, we lose the internet. Can you imagine if we lost indoor plumbing? Can you imagine if indoor plumbing just one day shut off, all right, say for 12 hours? Not a good thing. So his generation, my grandparents, my grandfather, they saw this big move as the industrial age was growing stronger. Oh, by the way, the other thing was the automobile. My grandfather was a car guy. I've said this before. He was 17 years old, working in the accounting office of a startup automotive company known as Ford Motor Company. That was my grandfather. I used to have his ID card with his picture on it from 1916. He was 17 years old. He loved cars. But that's what they grew up with. They saw automobiles, radio. There was no radio. Okay? They saw all this refrigeration, indoor plumbing, indoor electricity. They saw all this happen. Television, of course, eventually television, radar. It just kept growing. Undersea cables. My grandfather, I've mentioned this before, used to call television the idiot box. I happen to be in agreement with that. But they saw all this happen. It was an amazing. They both lived to be in their 80s. They died 1982, early 1983, within 3 months of each other. The only thing they didn't see was the internet. My mother got a glimpse of that, but she said, "No, I'm not interested in that." My uncle was World War II guy. He was interested in the internet. He liked sending out emails because he liked sending out jokes. But they saw all this accelerated technology, and what we're witnessing here, the other aspect of this, let me put it to you this way: the other aspect of this is that I was thinking about was travel. Now, I have lived in virtually, for those who don't know me, I've lived in virtually every major city of the United States, from New York to Portland to Seattle to Kansas City, Chicago, twice here in North Carolina, twice in New Jersey, a lot of time in Southern California, a lot of time in the Boston area. Twice, did I say twice in Chicago? I think I did. And two other countries. And I have visited many other countries, including living 7 years in Europe and seeing a lot of the European countries. But 100 years ago, that was very rare, and only the well-to-do, such as the British aristocracy, for example, could do that. There was no airplanes, right? Just going across the country, even as far as the late 1940s. There's a great video about Lauren Bacall giving a speech for Kirk Douglas because they grew up together, and she mentions how she was taking a trip on the Super Chief. Well, the Super Chief was a train. This was after World War II, so this is late 1940s. And her and Humphrey Bogart, her husband, are crossing the United States on a train. Not on a plane, on a train. And this is only, 80 years ago, a little less than that. So if you think about it, we have this ability to communicate to anyone, travel virtually anywhere within 24 hours. I could be from here to Australia in 24 hours, or India, right? Or the Maldives, or Sri Lanka, or, Bali and Tahiti, and I could be anywhere in 24 hours, anywhere. And as just a simple middle-class dude, I have the wherewithal to do that. I have the means to do that. This wasn't always the case for thousands upon thousands of years. So we're in this accelerated timeline where we can do things, quote unquote, at the speed of light, fiber optics, right? At the same time, we can experience multiple lifetimes in one lifetime. And I'll give you an example of why I say that. 3 years ago, this is, I think, what triggered this little talk. 3 years ago, I didn't look up the date, but it's 3 years ago, almost to the day, sometime in July. I allowed myself to be hypnotized by a woman in Asheville, North Carolina. She was a student of Dolores Cannon, and I went there and she hypnotized me, and we did some past life regression, 3 of them. They were all Native American Indians. And this was one of those things where it's a part of this story, because in those lifetimes, right, I would not have been able to move around even parts of the United States, much less the world, even North America, for crying out loud, the way we do today. So while we call those simpler times, you know, I believe that there's a reason for all this to happen, and it has to do with our soul's evolution, and that evolution is happening at an accelerated pace. The other aspect of that is why so many of you young people are coming in already awakened. I see it all over social media, right? Took me until my early 50s to reach what we would call the awakening state, when I had my awakening. And some of you young people are, boom, coming in awake. And it's an amazing thing to see. But this is a result of, in part, I think, this accelerated timeline that we're going through, all of us. It's also why we see what we might call the bad guys or evil. They are also accelerated. It's why I gave up going to Twitter, because you could see all of these, what we'll call the points of attack, happening in so many different places. So some of us are here to go to battle with that, but we have different ways of going to battle with that. And obviously, my way this year has been with these videos and speaking my truth about what I believe is going on, including what's going on first and foremost inside of me. So all of us, I would suggest that take a periodic check in with yourself. And all of now, this is I posted a video in my men's group yesterday or the day before. It's a hilarious video. And it's a guy talking about men's brains and women's brains. And men's brains are these little boxes. And there's a little box for this and a little box for that. And there's a little box for this and a little box for that. So I'm going into the little box, right? That's what I'm talking from, is this little box that says we have these little parts of our life, these stages of our life that we go through in this accelerated timeline. So when I look at my life, I can go boom, 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 boom. It has to do with either where I worked, where I lived, and the relationship I was having at the time, usually with a woman, sometimes with a group. And there are all these boxes, all these compartments, boom, 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 like that. Now, you ladies won't experience that. Yours will be more, according to this guy's video, they're like a ball of yarn. Everything's connected. Men, everything's a box. We pull out the little box. It's just a hilarious video. I'll try to put a link down below. But I do believe that one of the reasons that we're here at this point in human evolution, Earth human evolution, is to have a lot of experiences compressed into one lifetime. And these experiences, some of them are going to be joyful and some of them are going to be painful. All right. You've all had both and everything in between. And sometimes we just have to stop and say, maybe it's just a part of the contract that we made before we got here. And in my last relationship with this beautiful woman, we were going through a lot of stuff spiritually. And once in a while, we would ask the question, we would talk about the contract, and we would ask the question, I want to see the paperwork. Okay. Which never happened because there is no paperwork. All right. But it was a joke amongst us because there was so much going on spiritually. It was quite an intense couple of years. Many of you may be going through that now. Okay. And it's just one of those things that we have to accept, that everything is accelerated, both form and formless. And it gives us even more impetus to stop and make time for this. Even with your kids, with your spouse, with your significant others, even with your friends, we have to stop on a regular basis and just slow it down, right? Just take a look at what's going on. Because we can get caught up in this acceleration. And I believe that that would not be a healthy thing for any of us, because self-care is so important. And the human body has not evolved with this accelerated timeline, in my humble opinion. The human body needs self-care, it needs rest, it needs to be looked after with intention, with love. So think about that. Think about how often you just give yourself a break. And then look at all of these experiences, especially if you've got, a few years on you. I see a lot of people in this one particular social media threads where there's a lot of 50s, a lot of people, excuse the smoke. I love when it does it. A lot of people in their 50s and they're proud of it. I think that that's a great thing. They're staying fit, they're staying healthy, they're, want to take care of themselves. And that's a wonderful thing. But we're all on this accelerated timeline, and it's not going to slow down. It's going to keep going faster, right? I saw a guy who won the Nobel Prize for physics. I saw a 2-minute speech he gave about artificial intelligence, and it was a warning, because things are happening very quickly in some of these technologies, whether it's artificial intelligence, quantum computing, 3D printing, etc. Things are happening very quickly. And we, as an Earth human, are really not ready for that. We're really not ready to kind of keep up with that. So we have to take time to move away from the smoke. This is supposed to be a smokeless fire pit. We have to take time to move away from the smoke, and we have to take time for ourselves. So think about that, especially in the evenings when things are quiet, or in the mornings. I do my best is in the mornings, but I also slow down in the evenings. And I'm really being conscious these days about in the evenings to see if I can just sit in silence. Not an easy thing to do. You know, we're bombarded with technology, screens, television, iPads. You know, I work remotely, so I'm online all day. So I actually am forcing myself to sit in silence. And I know some people, some of you may have even done, you know, these silent retreats, 7 days with no talking. I think that's a great thing. Um, but again, I think it's more important to be consistent on a daily basis with things like everything from whether it's meditation or just sitting in silence, movement like I do qigong or tai chi. All of these things really need to be done every single day for as much time as we can allow. Going off on a retreat is a great thing. I love my trips to Costa Rica for ayahuasca, but there are certain things we have to do every day. So, for some reason, the wind just wants to blow right at me. Whew, right into the eyeballs. So, think about all of your experiences in life and how, if you are someone who was born before 1995, that's about the time the internet really started to take hold. Um, Even before 1980, which was about the time that cable television started to take hold with CNN, MTV, and ESPN. It's, yeah, at the forefront. Um, think about these different phases of life and whether or not you think they're going faster and how you're dealing with it. Are you dealing with it in a healthy way? Are you taking care of this, the mind, body, spirit complex? And that means not just the physical form, but that also means the non physical form. That's why I say mind, body, spirit complex. Okay? So I hope you'll look into this and take care of this, all of this whole energy field that you are. Because humanity needs you to take care of this. We need to go through this accelerated timeline in a healthy way and in a conscious way. Okay? Every single day. We must do things consciously with intention. Okay? So I'm going to sign off now. I've had enough smoke for one day. This is supposed to be a smokeless fire pit. It's not working that way. And it always has to. Do you notice? You ever go camping? We used to go camping all the time back in the '80s with my mates, and sit around the fire, and it always felt like it was coming right at you, just like it's doing right now. It's just the wind blowing this way, south to north. So, anyways, here we go. Cosmic energy, earth energy, heart energy. Send loving heart energy out to all beings, all dimensions, all timelines, all realities. May this day be filled with compassion, loving kindness, and courage. Open up your heart. Enjoy the day. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, my remote isn't working, if you noticed.